This is the last picture was taken from up there, looking down on this, where the blue end is. This is the mouth of the canyon. If you've ever been down the river in a bigger little boat, this is the confluence. So you've got water, which is something, we are a water-dependent species to a great extent. Unless you've seen my favorite movie, Lawrence of Arabia, where you kill people over 4 or 5 cups of water. And so water is a precious commodity out there, particularly if you're a farmer. Then you've got that band of vegetation, and then this huge expanse of rock with no protein or fat or anything in it or on it. What my grandmother would call God-forsaken. God-forsaken. Next shot, please.
Chris, I have a laser pointer. Would you like it?
Sure.
Like that.
Artifact.
Too bad it doesn't make a real good noise like this. So we kind of go from the big scale, those last 2 pictures, and this was completely by accident, by the way the slides came out of the box. But you can see that it's a little tiny turquoise bead, about the size of a dime. And this is always what we're looking for, this cool stuff. You hardly ever find it. It's not like Raiders of the Lost Ark out here. It's, although it is windy and there's lots of bugs, but no Nazis are chasing you, there's no gold, all that kind of stuff. But a turquoise bead doesn't make it on the surface very long. They hydrate really easy. You know, within 2 or 3 years, this would be cracked in 3 or 4 pieces. 7, 8 years just gone into crumbled stuff. So it was revealed real recently. This picture was just taken on some survey work done there just a couple of years ago. And of course, they collected it because it's perishable to a great extent. And when you find something like this, it's one of those nice moments instead of broken pots and these, goofy rocks that are going around. Next shot, nice. And this is just a compendium of pottery and some hand tools from a site, it's Basalt Rapid on the right bank. And we were down there mapping this. It's a huge site, but nobody knows about it because there's not a boat beach there. So the only people that have passed through this site since the Anasazi left are coyotes and a few bands of Ute hunters up off the rim, and then archaeologists. So when we recorded this site in 1990, my crew, the 3 of us, were recording this big 6-7 acre site. People lived on this site for 300-400 years, the Anasazi, from the beginning of their hegemony in the canyon until they were forced out because of drought and erosion. But all the pottery is left on this site, which isn't the case on most sites. Most of these really nice decorated wares are either back in Tokyo or Austin, Texas, or Nebraska or Philadelphia, because any site that people are allowed on in the canyon, well, there's all these shirts here, I'll pick one up and take it home, which is fine. I'm not the police. But this is one of those sites that nobody's been on. So I thought, well, this will make a good slide someday when I'm old and not doing field work anymore. So it was like 112 degrees, and I've been standing on this rock with my clipboard making noise to keep the ants off my feet. And I thought, wow, there's a whole carpet of artifacts on the surface. And we've got I don't know, Dick Becker's a good ceramicist, but these are all, of course, black on white Anasazi wares. These were local from Flagstaff and Black Mesa. But then you've got some that are from the Mesa Verde zone from the late 10th and early 11th century. And then these are from the terminal existence down in the canyon, maybe 1220, 1230 AD. So you've got about a 250-year span of pottery, tradeware pottery, from Colorado and up around Bluff, Utah, and along the Mancos, and then stuff from Arizona. It's all brought down to this godforsaken place for what? To trade. People walking 200 miles or 120 miles with pottery. It's hard enough walking down here now. They're carrying all this stuff to trade. So what were they coming in here for? Plant medicines, which are big deal. Salt, turquoise, and mineral pigments like hematite. There's even a piece of tradeware here from up in the San Juan Basin that's older than all of this black and white stuff from southeast Utah. Older than these black and white pieces. So people have been coming down here for a long time to a place people don't even come now. But 1,000 years ago, they were coming down here regularly, annually or semi-annually, maybe to the rim to trade stuff. This other stuff that we see, these plainware shirts, or what we call corrugated, and they were made on site, or at least in the canyon, and they were for storage. This is the Spode and Malik, Waterford, Noritake. This stuff is the giant Tupperware. Big vessels for storing stuff in. Here's a little, this is really nice, and of course this is what my grandmother would call another damn rock, but it's a hand palette. It's for sharpening things and grinding things in your hand. Here's a polishing stone, another polishing stone, and then here's an arrow point that doesn't belong here to this period, and somebody was passing through either hunting before or after and missed a bighorn sheep and it just laid on the surface. And then here's a garver, or what's called a burin, for making grooves in arrow shafts for fletching or for punching holes in leather to make toggles. Here's a repair hole in this black and white piece. And these people would curate stuff. Great-great-grandma got, just like we do with Malik and Waterford, and a nice, crystal candy dish or gravy bowl or something. That if they had a nice pot that great-great-grandmother had and it got a crack in it, it had huge value. Not money-wise, but in here. So they would drill a hole on each side of the crack and then fix it with either human hair or yucca fiber. They grew cotton down here, but cotton doesn't make very long-lasting string. So you find a lot of that. In fact, a lot of the stuff you find in the canyon and burials is curated. We'll find a 9th century bowl with an 11th century bowl inside that, and then a 13th century bowl inside of that, nested. In fact, Lance and I up on Cedar Mesa one time found a whole series of bowls that went from Terminal Pueblo 2, like the mid-1100s, right back to the end of Basket Make with a lima-grade pot, all sitting and toppling each other on the surface. And so it was very common for these folks to do that. Next shot, please. I just throw this in there to remind us how much of tribal existence and our own is perishable. You don't find these things laying around on the surface. These are all, except this one, all of these were made before 1920. And they're all what we call, us anthrotypes, called true Apache baskets or Yavapai baskets. We talk about Yavapais and Apaches around here all the time. They've got the black hair and the funny languages, but Apache and Yavapai culture, which has overlap because of where they lived and what they ate, their languages are as different as Dutch and Korean. Athabascan speakers, Apaches and Navajos, and then Yavapai speakers that have been in the state for thousands of years. Wallapai, Supai, Mojaves, Dueños, Cocopas, Paipais, and Yavapais from around here speak a human language, which is a lot easier for Germanic speakers to understand and speak. Whereas I've worked for the Apaches over in Camp Verde for 10, 11 years now, and I'm fairly bright, decent with languages, but not good. And I cause more trouble trying to speak Apache than not. And the older ladies sometimes will try to get me to say stuff, and then they'll just laugh and laugh. You didn't say that, you said this. And because of that /L thing, and several different ways of saying L. So if you say chachil or chachil, it's two completely different things. One of those things is acorn soup, and one of those things is a very delicate part of the female anatomy. If you don't get that right, there's going to be trouble. So I just put these under, these take hundreds of hours to make, they're meticulous works. The Apache ones, and the Yavapai ones as well, they're better than everybody else's baskets. They have the same designs as Pima and Papago, but these things have 12, 14, 15, sometimes 16 stitches per inch, whereas a Pima and Papago basket will have 8, 9, or 10. But they don't make it on the surface very well. And all of these hunting and gathering groups, Apaches and Yavapais included, they let their stuff go back. And the Yavapais were cremators, so that confounds the problem of preservation. It's just gone. They burn everybody's everything. And the Apaches just let it go back on the surface. Next shot, please. And here's two living Indians in the Grand Canyon.